Well, welcome, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, our country is being torn apart by a couple of radical groups. And I go back to the founding of America. Our founding fathers, Madison and Hamilton and Adams and George Washington, all were strongly against what would happen when a mob began to deal in an unreasoned thrust against the government. They all felt it was a problem that would happen to America if a group came together, unreasoned, unfeeling, and moved by animal passions, and it came together to destroy the government. That is what we're facing right now. But we showed you yesterday about Antifa. Antifa is not just some indigenous group. It came from Germany. It was a protest against the Nazis. But it is anarchist. They want to destroy everything. And the idea of defunding the police, that's Antifa. The idea of tearing stuff down, that's Antifa. They are total anarchists. They want to destroy everything. And it's not some innocent indigenous movement. This is clearly organized. They have chapters, and the whole game is to destroy the fabric of American society. But there's another organization you've heard a lot about. It's called Black Lives Matter. It's one of the most popular phrases in America today. And the mantra for the protest movement ignited by the murder of George Floyd and other tragic killings by police. But who's behind an organization called Black Lives Matter? And what does this organization really stand for? You're going to be shocked when we tell you the truth. Gary Lane brings us this stunning expose.
After the death of George Floyd in the custody of the Minneapolis police, the Black Lives Matter movement and the main organization have exploded into greater national prominence and gained a very wide following.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
The movement consists of many organizations, including the original Black Lives Matter group. On its website, it lists many goals, the majority of which most people would support, like, we work vigorously for freedom and justice for black people, and by extension, all people. But despite such mainstream ideas, leaders of Black Lives Matter come from a far-left point of view.
Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on sort of ideological theories.
The group takes positions many Americans would find very controversial, like its view of the traditional family, saying we disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages. Positions like those are why many black Americans, including Christians who support racial justice, oppose the organization's goals. Black Christian pro-life speaker and author Ryan Baumberger has written Top 10 Reasons I'll Never Support the Black Lives Matter movement.
They're radically pro-abortion. I mean, this is the movement that announced solidarity with the abortion industry. Back in 2015, there's actually a solidarity statement standing behind the abortion industry, standing with Planned Parenthood. So how can you say the Black Lives Matter on one hand and then partner with the leading killer of black lives?
Former Republican Congressman Lieutenant Colonel Alan West disagrees with the idea that police are committing mass attacks on black Americans, and it's a distraction from the issue of black abortion.
Black Lives Matter and the media wants us to believe it's a genocide out there. The real genocide is the 20 million unborn black babies have been murdered in the womb since 1973.
In addition to its support for non-traditional families, the group also strongly believes in gay rights, saying, we foster a queer-affirming network.
The Black Lives Matter movement heavily promotes homosexuality and transgenderism. They want to do away with heteronormative thinking. Well, we see what happens when we do away with God's framework of family, of a married mother and a father, and it leaves behind vulnerable communities which suffer so many negative outcomes.
West believes the organization is simply another far-left group, speaking to it directly in a recent video.
Because you don't stand for anything except the same old white progressive socialist ideological agenda that we will have nothing to do with.
And Baumberger points to another key problem from a biblical perspective.
They have no forgiveness, no reconciliation. There's no call for that. So as a Christian, when our salvation is predicated on reconciliation, being reconciled to God, how can we not be reconciled to one another?
With the number of high-profile deaths of Black Americans while dealing with police in recent years, and especially after the killing of George Floyd, it's easy to see why so many Americans are embracing the idea that Black lives matter. But if they take a closer look at the positions of the Black Lives Matter organization itself, they might rethink their support for that group. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Don't be a part of sheep. But to think of those women, they said, we are trained Marxists. We are trained. These are three of those women started Black Lives Matter. Two of them said, we're trained in Marxist ideology. What is Marxism? It is communism. What is communism? It has to do with all the things that we have been against over the years. And the United States has been standing up against communism. And these people are, like the Antifa, they're nihilists, they're anarchists, they want to destroy everything that we believe in, and so they're going around tearing down statues, and it's now so indiscriminate that they don't even know who they're tearing down. For example, they're going after the statue of not of Confederate leaders, but of Union officers who fought the Confederacy. They don't even know what's happening. It's blind rage, now undisciplined rage, trying to destroy this nation of ours and rename things, take down statues of Christopher Columbus, rename the capital of Ohio, and on it goes. Why? Because they will destroy the fabric of this nation, and the game plan of the anarchists is to set one class against another, to start the people fighting each other. That's what's been happening. And don't be sucked into it. You know, it sounds so noble, but it isn't noble at all when you've got three people who start something with that name and who are acknowledged Marxist revolutionaries. Well, in other news, since George Floyd's brutal murder, Americans have been clamoring for police reforms. Now it looks like that move is all but dead in Washington. Why? John Jessup has that story.